The Prime Minister resigning. Tell us what led to this.
Well, this looks like a highly orchestrated move by President Putin as he looks to reshuffle the government and make some serious constitutional changes that he laid out today in his annual address to Russia's Federal Assembly, its legislature, the two houses of parliament. He made a number of announcements that he hopes to introduce into the constitution, a number of amendments involving giving more powers to the parliament and the prime minister and placing more restrictions effectively on the position of president. That would, of course, put some imposition on his successor, whoever that might be, in the year 2024. And all of this is in regards to to what happens next for President Putin. There has been growing speculation about what will happen in 2024 when this last presidential term of his ends, because he, under the Constitution, cannot currently run for another presidential term. And that's something that's happened before. He served 2 presidential terms and then was forced to step down in 2008, at which point he became prime minister. And then after one term where Dmitry Medvedev was the president of Russia, President Putin came back for another 2 terms. And so now everybody's looking to what's going to happen next. And it looks like this resignation today by Dmitry Medvedev and all of the government of Russia is in order to pave the way for what's going to come next for President Putin. It might involve him becoming the next prime minister of Russia, or it could also allow for President Putin to take over the Russian Security Council, which is a very influential body that advises the president.
So ultimately, pundits also saying that this looks like it's his way of trying to cling onto power. Let's talk about the ordinary citizens. How do they respond to this?
Well, there's been a range of reactions from the citizens of Russia today. A lot of them were not particularly surprised that this took place. The surprising thing was the timing, of course. Nobody expected Dmitry Medvedev to leave his post at this time. There are still 4 more years until the next Russian presidential election, at which point President Putin will need to step down. And so really the timing was the surprising factor here. Many Russians are very much expecting President Putin to maintain his grip on power. The question was always around how he was going to do so. There was some speculation that he could change the constitution in order to allow him to stay as president or to run as president for another consecutive term. There was speculation that he might change the constitution in order to integrate Belarus into the country of Russia, and that would allow him to then perhaps stay in power of a new, bigger country. Those options seem to have been ruled out today, and so that is why we see President Putin possibly looking for other alternatives. It's unclear whether he even knows what those might be, but he's certainly making some moves, and the fact that Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev has now resigned from his post is certainly paving the way for him to make those changes.
All right, we can leave it right there. Our correspondent in Russia, Julia Chapman.